Hello, welcome to Totally Schway, a podcast where my husband and I talk about the DC animated universe and other things, like cats.
Yeah, they may come up every now and then.
Yeah. So I have got my Stanley Cup filled with water. I've got a notepad with some factoids, and I've got some questions and a poll up on the computer screen. So should we get started?
Yes, please.
All right. So the first thing that I'd like to talk about, obviously, is the poll results.
Yes, so I put a poll up on my channel asking... if you listen to our test episode, Mary insisted we put up a poll where we determined who the best Flash was, whether it was Justice League Flash, JLU Flash, Michael Rosenbaum, or all of the above. So we've got the hotly contested results here. There were over 1,000 votes, which I was very surprised by. I think it was like 1,050, something like that. So Mary, why don't you take it away? Why don't you tell us the results? I know everyone's dying to know who the greatest Flash is.
Okay, in joint last place, JLU Flash.
Oh. And
Michael Rosenbaum. In third place.
That's second place.
Sorry, second place.
Yeah. The best loser.
The best loser is Justice League Flash.
Okay, so
The number one spot goes to all of the above.
with a whopping 79% of the votes. So that's like 790 of you agreed that all of the DC Animated Universe Flashes are the best one. Because
Okay.
they're the same person.
I was about to say, did you vote in your own poll?
I didn't actually, no.
Oh, so if you guys listened to our pilot episode, I told you I did not vote in one of the polls. I voted in this one, and I'm going to tell you, I won.
Oh, good.
So, like I said before, Michael Rosenbaum is the best Flash that there ever was, ever will be, and he can continue doing that until, well, I mean, I was going to say until, time ends, but there's AI now that can sound just like him, so.
Oh, yeah, but we don't like that.
We don't like AI.
Well, look, AI has got its uses, but you shouldn't be, copying people's voices.
No, not without their explicit permission.
Oh, even then, you probably still shouldn't do it.
You can now, apparently, hear me out. You know, the essays we had to do to, send to colleges and whatnot. We could use AI to do that. Right?
In theory, you could, but they would read like garbage.
Yeah. This is about paperwork, blah, blah, blah. I don't think AI actually sounds like that. I'm just wanting everything to sound like a robot. Okay, so now you've got the results. Now you know that it is all of the above because they were all played by the same person who's fantastic, and that's all. We don't really, that's the end of the podcast. We don't, I have a few things written down, but we've already established that he was the best.
Yeah. So we need to get into why we think this version of The Flash is the best one. Because my channel is primarily dedicated to Batman the Animated Series, and I know Justice League and Justice League Unlimited are connected to Batman the Animated Series.
Sure.
And to be honest, my expertise kind of lies in the Batman area because that's what I'm most interested in. And don't get me wrong, I do like Justice League and Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
And Static Shock and Superman and even the Zeta Project. Zeta Project was all right.
Never seen it.
Yeah. Well, you will. You will.
Yeah. So you're so sure of that.
Yeah. Well, I've got it. I've got it all.
We're not recording our faces at the moment because we're just starting this out. But the look he gave me that was so sure, is the excitement he just had. It is like you will watch it. It was nice.
Yeah. So I kind of lost track of what I was saying there, but I think basically what I was trying to say is we need to talk about why this Flash is so good.
All right, so I really like this Flash because, well, okay, let's establish something right now. I love comic books, I do, but I am not an avid comic book reader. If I like a story, I will find this story and I will read it. But I am not the type of person that gets it every week or every month or anything like that. Because you're the one that usually tells me about the different storylines and stuff like that, which I love. Now, if there's an animated series or a movie about it, that's where I'm going to come in because that's what I like. I'm more of a visual motion picture type of person.
An observer.
Yeah, I love to read, but I love comic book animation movies. I don't know how to animated movies, whatever. So I need to establish that. So I'm not going to be as much of an expert at like the Flash that's in the comics.
There are lots of different Flashes in the comics. I can get into that.
I am just talking about my favorite Flash, which is the Justice League Flash.
Yeah.
The reason I like this Flash is in all honesty, is he's wholesome. He's a jokester. He's always the one that saves the day because he's a part of the team. He doesn't have to be Superman. He doesn't have to be Batman. He doesn't have to be this larger than life being. He can be the tall, skinny, lanky guy that's super fast and still be one of the most vital parts of the team. Yeah. And I think the Flash teaches you, well, in this particular thing, that you don't have to be Superman. You can be the Flash. You can be a very original person, but you don't always have to be the leader. But that doesn't mean you always have to follow by the rules. You could always be a Flash.
Yeah, you can just be yourself and be just as valuable a team member as, say, Superman, who's the strongest, or
That's
Batman,
right.
who's the smartest, or Martian Manhunter, who is he's just got all of the powers.
Yes, I hope that made sense, because my whole thing about superheroes is you're always going to hear about the main characters. You're going to have those characters. You've got the Wonder Woman movie, the Superman movie. I mean, we're not going to talk about the Flash movie, but you have all of these big over the moon type of characters. Why can't we just have a Flash who's just this normal guy that happened to get superpowers in a weird way, and then he just wants to live a normal life. He wants to flirt with some girls in a wholesome way, and he wants to eat his peanut butter and bananas with raisin sandwich and just live life.
Yeah, and I think he's quite refreshing.
Yes.
Compared to Batman, who is sort of very serious, doom and gloom.
Yes.
Superman is, he's light-hearted, but he's also kind of serious and stoic. And then when you pair him up with Jon Stewart, Green Lantern, who is like the definitive, in a comedic duo, there's the straight man and the comedy guy.
Yes.
Green Lantern is the straight man, the Flash is the comedy guy, and they work really well together.
Yeah.
Like, what was that episode we watched last night? Is it called Brave and the Bold, where Green Lantern and the Flash team up against Gorilla Grodd?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a lot of comedy in there with the Flash.
Yeah.
And it worked really nicely playing off.
Yeah, it really
Jon Stewart
does.
being completely deadpan.
That's another podcast episode is...
Jon Stewart?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I can talk about all of them. They're all great.
So... with the Flash being the Flash, I really like the fact that I am an awkward person. I am one of those people that I find it hard to talk to people sometimes, and I muffle up what I'm saying, or I talk too much or something, and I think I can kind of relate to the Flash because he kind of says the wrong thing sometimes, and he's not, the most... poetic person or articulate person, and sometimes what he says just flops out of his mouth. Yeah. And I feel like I can relate to that.
So another episode we were watching last night was Eclipsed with Eclipso.
Yes.
And there's that Godfrey guy, I've forgotten his full name, the TV host who's really picking on the Justice League.
Gross.
And the Flash turns up on his show to defend the Justice League, and he ends up making it worse. Yeah. Because he said, well, it's like Green Lantern said, we're above all that. Oh, so you think you're better than all of us?
Yeah.
No!
But you, because you know me, you've known me for, 20 years almost, you know that I've been in situations, obviously not on TV, but I've been in situations where I've been trying to say something, but my mind is going quicker than my words, but I'm kind of saying the opposite, and I feel like he's like that in a way.
Well, yeah, that's true. Everything about him is fast.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he was a quick thinker, actually. Come to think of it, he's a quick talker, but not necessarily a quick thinker.
Yeah. So there's so many things I like about this particular Flash that I could talk about for ages and ages. But there are specific things you have wanted to talk about, so let's talk about some of those things.
Okay, so I think the best Justice League episode with the Flash is in Justice League Unlimited. It's called Flash and Substance.
Yes.
So that's the one with the Flash Museum and how the Flash's villains all team up to try and defeat him.
Yes.
And it's kind of like a glimpse into the Flash's world, and you're a witness along with Batman and Orion. Now, Batman is kind of like, personality-wise, he's the opposite of the Flash, but by the time of Justice League Unlimited, he's mellowed out a lot.
Yeah.
Very tolerant of the Flash's antics. Whereas Orion is new to it.
Yep.
And Orion shares personality traits with Batman. He's no nonsense. He's very matter-of-fact. He's down-to-earth. He's much more... I don't want to say cruel. He's not cruel. It's just he's firm and he's hard with people.
Blunt, yeah.
Yeah, and his approach to solving these issues with the Flash's Rogues Gallery is to beat them senseless.
Yeah. Whereas
there's this wonderful scene in the bar where the Flash wants information about what his rogues are up to.
Yeah.
And he goes to the bar where the Trickster is. And he just sits down and he talks to him. He says, come on, man, you're off your meds, aren't you? You need to go to the hospital after this. Just tell me what they're doing and we'll help you out.
And that's what brings the wholesomeness, and also the fact that you, as a superhero, you don't always have to use your fist or your laser beams. Yeah. You can also use your humility and you're just overall. How are you doing today? Like just like he said, you off your meds, and it's a caring thing, and I think with Flash. Or this particular Flash again, you see that in him. It's more obvious in him than it is with some of the other characters.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's obvious with Superman as well.
Yes, with Superman.
I think it's perhaps more obvious with Superman just because Superman is so godly.
Yeah.
That when he has these down-to-earth, quiet moments, they stand out more. But it's just as obvious with the Flash. And the Flash uses humour to kind of deal with tough situations.
Yep.
Which is a very common coping mechanism.
Yeah. I think we can all relate to that sometimes.
Yeah, and I was just thinking now, I've forgotten the name of the episode, but it's the one that introduces Captain Marvel, Shazam.
Yeah, Shazam!
And Superman summons Captain Marvel into the office with the original 7 Justice Leaguers. And, he's scolding him, saying, you've got to live up to a higher standard. We don't shill products. And then you see the Flash kind of sat in the corner with covering his face with his hand going, because he had been shilling products. He was selling energy bars and shoes and stuff. And eventually he saw the error of his ways. And
of course.
Actually, we're above that. We need to be judged at a higher standard, so we can't do that anymore.
That's right.
But actually, I know I'm zigzagging around a little bit. What I think is really refreshing about the Flash as well, with all these wonderful powers, he still lives a fairly modest life. Like, he's got a little apartment. It's like right in the centre of town. Like, Batman lives in a mansion. Martian Manhunter sleeps in a space station.
Yeah.
If he even sleeps at all. Wonder Woman's from an island.
She's a princess.
Yeah, she's a princess from an island, and Green Lantern, he also is pretty down to earth because he's just like a soldier. I don't know where Hawkgirl sleeps. She probably sleeps in a tree. But so even though they've got these amazing powers, they're still fairly down to earth for the most part.
Yeah. Oh, question. Who is your favorite Flash villain?
So the thing with the Flash's villains is they are very gimmicky, and they're very kind of like 1950s kooky comic book
kind of camp
style.
in a way.
Yes, they are. They absolutely are camp. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm
No,
not
of
saying
course
that's
not.
bad. It's just not really my taste.
I love camp.
I like the Trickster, mostly because he's voiced by Mark Hamill. And
Obviously.
Mark Hamill played him in the Flash TV series in 1991-ish. Mm-hmm. Which also, Shirley Walker did the music for that show as well,
Yeah.
so that's another connection with BTAS. In fact,
Yeah.
the music she made for The Flash is why she was selected to work on Batman, the animated series, primarily.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that she worked with Danny Elfman a lot.
Yeah. You're just name dropping like crazy.
I know. It's all these little facts that are just sitting
Yeah.
there in my head that are completely useless, by the way. I can't remember. So I used to be good at maths at school, right? I used to
Arithmetic.
be... Maths.
Arithmetic.
Maths.
Algebra.
I used to be able to do quadratic equations. I remember that quadratic equations exist, and I vaguely recall what they are, but I can't remember how to solve them. But if you ask me what happens in Season 2 of X-Men the Animated Series, or who wrote the music for the episode Pretty Poison of Batman, I'll be like, yeah, I'll tell you exactly. I'll tell you everything. In fact, I'll recite the dialogue off the top of my head. I'm not going to say the Trickster's my favourite one, actually. I think I kind of like Captain Cold, just because he's got this bright, colourful costume, but he's like really just bitter and snarky.
So I'm gonna be basic. I mean, I have my Stanley Cup over here filled with like 30 ounces of liquid, so as basic as it comes. I'm gonna say Grodd, and not because I like Grodd, because I don't. It's just Grodd is one of those people that will just, it's a complete parasite, will always find a way back. You could lock him in a bunker 10 feet to 100 feet underground, and 3 months he's going to be back trying to mind control you.
Yeah.
A parasite at the best. And also he's likes to think he's the smartest person in the room, when actually, not really. And I think we've all known kind of people like that, where they think they're the smartest person. And I think it's, although it's Gorilla Grodd, I never really see him as a gorilla. I just see him as a parasite.
Not to be confused with the Parasite.
Oh, no.
But it's funny you say that about Grodd, because at the end of Justice League Unlimited, he got
Spoilers.
shot. Oh, come on, if anyone's listening to this, they've probably seen it. At least I would hope so. But at the end of the first season, or is it second season? No, second season, yeah. He gets shot out of an airlock into space by Lex Luthor. But I could be mistaken. I think Grodd actually comes back after that, so I'd be curious to learn how he survived the cold of space.
Yeah.
I know he had a lot of other supervillains on his ship with him.
A lot of fur.
Yeah. That's what they do with astronauts, right? They're just like, hey, just put on a big fur coat.
Just don't shave for 3 months.
Don't shave for 3 months. Put on a big fur coat. Hold your breath. Cross your fingers.
But yeah, he's Parasite in my eyes, and it's kind of like some of the American well, I mean, it's not just American politicians. It just reminds me of a parasitic politician that just keeps coming back.
Yeah, and Powers Booth, who did his voice, he's really great.
Oh, yes.
R.I.P. Powers Booth.
Yeah. Oh, R.I.P. to so many.
Yeah, I know. Well, this is what happens when you're talking about, shows that are 25, 30 years old.
Yeah.
A lot of the people are gone now.
Should we get to some questions?
Yes, but there was something I needed to show you first.
Oh, are these surprises?
This is a surprise for you.
Mary, how are you? I woke up just for you, Mary, because Luke and I have been talking, and this is for you, Mary. Mary, you think that my version of The Flash is the best one. And, I'd like to agree, but it would sound cocky. No, I don't know. I enjoyed doing it. It was funny. He was kind of the comic relief. I liked The Flash because everyone was always serious around him, and then he got to be the funny guy, kind of ease the situation a little bit. And, Luke says you're shy. I don't believe it, but especially since you're starting a podcast about DC cartoons, totally Schway with Mary, it's very exciting. It's very exciting. I'm glad you're doing it. I wish you the best of luck with that. and it's going to be great. And do it for you. Do it because you enjoy it. Do it because you love it. And say what you want to say. I think that was who sang that song? Say what you need to say. John Mayer. John Mayer sang that song. Anyway, Mary, I love you, and I'm thinking about you. And go Schway. Go do your podcast. Kill it. I know it's going to be great. Totally Schway. And Luke, you're a good friend. Unless you're Mary's boyfriend. This would get weird if that was the case and you weren't her boyfriend. So anyway, friends, Mary, rock on. All my love to you. Kick some butt. See you later.
Okay. I did. So Mary had no idea I was doing that. I've been sitting on that for nearly a week.
Oh my gosh. Whew. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
Sid, you're my boyfriend.
I mean, to be fair, I probably should have mentioned.
No, oh my god. I'm going to keep that forever.
Yeah, of course you are. And I'm going to edit it in so that people can see it as well.
Oh, that is so sweet. You want to know something? He doesn't look a day over 35.
No.
You know how old he is, right?
Right.
I think he's 50. Does not look a day over 35. Oh, that was so... Thank you so much.
Yeah, in case anyone didn't know who that was Michael Rosenbaum, the voice of The Flash.
Oh.
I think it probably would be quite obvious when he said, you think my version of The Flash is the best.
Obviously, he agrees.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so sweet. Yeah,
I'm just going to... Once we've got some music sorted out, I'm definitely going to clip a little bit of Michael Rosenbaum going, totally Schway.
So, a lot of people listening, I say a lot of people, because actually a lot of people did tune in to the first episode. Was it 600 people?
Yeah, about 650, yeah. So that's pretty good.
I am quite a shy person. I think some of my work colleagues might not agree with me because I like to sing Gloria Gaynor very loudly. But when it comes to talking to people and actually joining in as a human being and not trying to be like the jokester or whatever, I am very shy. I think the only person that I'm not shy around obviously is Luke, because I've never really been shy around you. And
early on you could be. Yeah, like when I first arrived in the States to meet you, you were just like looking at the floor the whole time.
I couldn't. Yeah, because I was like, is this a dream? Is this a dream? But no, and I'm sure Luke mentioned something to him. I don't think he just thought I was a shy girl. But no, thank you so much. That's so. I'm literally that's made my day.
Yeah, I knew it would.
Yeah, thank you.
That's why I did it.
I find it really funny because obviously Michael Rosenbaum has this really like great podcast, and it's awesome that he helps like boost everybody's I'm just so shocked because I just saw him say my name. I'm surprised you didn't tell him to say my full name. But what is the word I'm looking for? I love the fact that a lot of this community really, they help each other out, and they really just want you to succeed, because it's not one of those things where, oh, this has to be bigger than this podcast or this or that. Because, and at the end of the day, we're all just trying to have fun, and we're all just trying to get by with not just humor, but just with good friends, good music, movies, television shows, comic books.
Yeah, there are a lot of things wrong with the world right now.
Yeah, very much.
And life can be very difficult for some people, and some people lash out.
Yeah.
As part of their, the way they deal with their frustrations, and I can understand having negative feelings, and it's perfectly okay to have negative feelings about bad situations, but that can't be your only response to it.
Yeah.
And this is going to tie this all back into my beloved Batman villains. The Batman villains, they are people whose lives are ruined or inconvenienced or offset, basically. Things don't go the way they want them to. They are hurt, they are wounded, they are traumatized, and they lash out, and that's their only reaction, and that's what makes them the villains.
Yeah.
Whereas Batman is wounded and traumatized and deeply, deeply hurt. But his response is to take that negative energy and try and do something good about it to stop bad things from happening to other people. And I know this episode is supposed to be about The Flash, and I've just spent a minute talking about Batman, but come on, I've got a YouTube channel all about Batman.
Here, it's the
What do you expect?
The thing is, like, it doesn't obviously you've heard this phrase a million times in your life. It doesn't cost anything to put kindness in the air, and it really doesn't. And I think having grown up, obviously in like American high schools and junior highs and stuff like that, I know nasty people. I mean, even in my adult life, I know nasty people, but I don't believe that just because we get lashed out at, doesn't mean we need to give that same energy to them, because we can ignore them and move on, but we could also do something even better than that. And that is to put some decent kindness in this world, whether it's through making someone laugh through something like this, like a podcast, or just doing a deed without
expecting a reward.
Yeah. Like, there's this thing at Starbucks. I don't know if they do it over here, but in Starbucks in the States, at the drive-through, sometimes people just pay for the next person's order, like that, and it's that pay it forward type thing.
Yep.
You do not know who those people in front of you are. No idea. All you do is you pay it forward, and you're like, you know what? That was a bit of kindness in this world. Hopefully the next person doesn't have like $1 million thing. But yeah, I think, bringing it back to all of the superheroes, in whether it's the Justice League or if it's just Batman or just the Flash, these people, I'm not saying that they don't have like negative things about them, or these characters don't have negative things about them. The main thing about it is that they're just trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Like what they think is the right thing. And sometimes the right thing right away doesn't look like the good thing, but most of the time when you have good intention and like I said, kindness in your heart, it can be the right thing, because anything can be turned around no matter how bad the situation is.
Yeah.
It can be turned around, and we can just continue to do good things in this world. And like I said just a few minutes ago, if you do a good thing, you don't have to tell people you did a good thing.
Yeah.
And that's the greatness of like the Flash, Batman, Green Lantern, stuff like that. A lot of time people don't know who they really are, but they're just out here saving the world. Even small things like, I'm assuming that was Cameo.
Yeah.
Even things that people do on Cameo, they can make people feel so good, especially when not having great days. Like today, I've not had the best morning because I had to go to work at 5 a.m. And I didn't have the best morning, and that has lifted my spirits so much. Even just sitting down recording this has. But sometimes you don't need to know. People don't need to know what kindness you're doing, and just be nice to people.
Yeah.
And if somebody else is doing something that you want to do, or that you have done, or that you're doing, don't bring them down, lift them up, because we're not competing in this life. We are just all living this life, and just be a decent human being. All right, TED Talk over.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk about why the Flash is lovely.
Like, share, and subscribe.
No more questions.
Okay. Actually, there are more questions.
He says, perfect segue onto the question section, isn't it?
Jack Toma, 21, says, do you think they should have done more with Harvey's split personality after the origin episode? The bad side just seemed to be in perpetual control. I would have liked some conversation between the two personalities akin to Arkham games.
So, what I think is actually very interesting is, in Two-Face Part 1, Harvey Dent had two personalities. There's Harvey Dent and Big Bad Half. When he is being blackmailed by Rupert Thorne, Harvey Dent, the personality, retreats, and Big Bad Half takes control. So by that point, he's really only got the one personality, Big Bad Half. After he gets caught in the explosion and half his body's burnt off, and he sees his face, Big Bad Half retreats completely. So Harvey Dent and Big Bad Harv have run away. And what's left in their place is kind of like a merger of the two.
Yeah.
Two-Face.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a third personality.
Yeah.
And that's why he didn't, have conversations with himself and argue with himself. It's not because, if I flip the coin and it lands up good side, I'll be Harvey Dent. If it lands up scarred side, I'll be Big Bad Harv. No, it's just he is Two-Faced now.
Yeah.
If you read Batman Adventures number 22, which is a Two-Face story, you have Bruce Wayne listening to psychological tapes about Harvey Dent's personality, and they actually talk about what happened there. There's also a tie-in novelization called Duel to the Death, not duel as in D-U-E-L fight.
Yeah, duel as a dose.
Two. Yeah, which I thought was very clever. Mm-hmm. Where Batman goes to visit Dr. Crest, I think her name was Dr. Crest, Harvey Dent's psychologist, and she says that, Big Bad Harv's gone, Harvey Dent's gone, Two-Face is there now.
Yeah, I think it was beautifully done, and it didn't. Obviously, I don't think that any of the DC animated series have ever made fun of disabilities or anything. I think the way that they've done it, as you've said it before, it's sophisticated psychology, and it's done in a way where it talks about it, but it's not. They're not psychologists.
Yeah.
But they are saying that this thing exists, and we've put it into this person, so we can show you that not everybody is the same.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that Alan Burnett, who wrote the outline for Two-Face's origin story, he actually went to a child psychologist and said, right, what would have to have happened for this to happen to a person? Mm-hmm. And how would it develop? And that's how they landed on the position they landed on. So it's kind of rooted in realism, but not necessarily realistic. And actually, recently, I've had a couple of people in the comments reach out saying that actually they have dissociative identity disorder, and they've been talking about their experiences, which I really value. I really value hearing from people that actually live with it.
And it's brave talking about it too.
Yeah, I mean, one of them was saying to me, I'm sorry, I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but one of them was saying that they're actually quite happy living with their condition with, multiples others inside of them.
Yeah.
It's not something that causes them strife or anguish.
Yeah.
And they actually find it a little unpleasant watching things like, Two-Face and the ventriloquist episodes where the only solution to their problem is to erase these other personalities. They feel like those personalities are just as much a part of them as, their hands or their feet or, which is a really interesting take I'd never considered before.
Yeah, and let's remember, this was supposed to be a kid's cartoon. So you have to think of what they were trying to show children and what was the best way to not confuse them.
Yeah.
And I think they did a great job. I honestly, as a person who has known people to have mental health issues and suffering from mental health issues myself, I think that not just with the Harvey situation, but I think with multiple situations in the DC animated universe, they've handled it beautifully. And I think it was because they cared about it to the point, like Luke just said, that they spoke to child psychologists. And, it takes a lot of care. It really does. And it really shows.
Yeah. So I hope that answered your question, Jack Taylor. I don't know how long we spoke about that. There's me just before this going, we're going to get through these questions really quick, and then spend 10 minutes talking about dissociative identity disorder, and I'm not even an expert on it, so I apologise. So sorry, next question.
Okay, so at Little Weird.
A little weird, okay.
Yeah, we love a little weird. I've got two questions, actually. One, of the already existing characters of the BTAS cast, who do you think had the most wasted potential? And if you were to give said character just one more episode, what would it look like?
All right, so I'm going to start this off, and I'm going to say the Riddler.
Oh, yeah.
He had 3 episodes in Batman the Animated Series. The first 2 weren't that good. Riddler's Reform was excellent. I really loved Riddler's Reform. And he got this kind of bold Frank Gorshin leotard style redesign. No, Frank Gorshin. No, he did wear a leotard. Yes, he did. Sorry, I got confused for a second. He got this redesign in the new Batman Adventures, and he only really appeared as a background character, so he was completely wasted. Paul Dini picked him up again in his Detective Comics run, where he made the Riddler a detective, which I thought was great. So I would probably do something very similar. I would have the Riddler realise that he's never going to outsmart Batman. So what he's going to do is he's going to solve the crimes before Batman can, to prove that he is smarter. That's what I'd do.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mary?
Did it have to be a villain? Did it say that it had to be a villain?
I don't think so. It says existing characters, but the Riddler immediately came to my mind. Like, who do you think didn't get enough spotlight? I mean, I can think of one that you might say.
What do you think I might say?
Renee Montoya.
Well, obviously, who doesn't want more of Renee Montoya? But I was actually going to say Harvey Bullock.
Oh, really?
I know we just. I just feel like he could have been like one of those like New York cops. They could have done like 3 episodes of just like what would Harvey do? Mm-hmm. Like what kind of mischief can he stop? And what does he have for breakfast other than donuts and coffee? And who is Harvey Bullock outside of the Gotham City Police Department?
I get the impression that Harvey's job is his life. So he's always on duty.
Word.
Apart from when he's asleep.
And even then, he's probably thinking about it.
Yeah, of course he is.
When he has one of those gaming parties where you've got the Doritos and like the ground mincemeat chili dip, you know who he's going to invite.
Commissioner Gordon.
Obviously. He is. Like, that's going to be the one person that he's like, hey, you want to have some dip? Yeah, let's have some dip.
He'll need to keep it out of his moustache, though.
Yeah, obviously. But yeah, that's... I think if we're not talking about villains, I would have liked to see more of that, because I think they could have had, like, a Law and Order type thing just with him. They could have actually done a Law and Order-esque type episode with him. Mm-hmm. And they could have done, like, music that was like Law and Order, like, dun-dun. But just for, like, Harvey, and then you could have had, like, them putting Bruce... this is just me putting out ideas for future episodes. Information's in the description. So, little weird second question. Of the DC Animated Universe characters, who deserve to have their own animated series the most, in your opinion?
You go first.
Did I not just say this? No, so I think Hot Girl. I think they could have done more with Hot Girl. And obviously she had her redemption arc on Justice League Unlimited, but I think there's so much more into the story than that. But I think it just, who doesn't want another, TV show about a kick-ass leading lady?
Yeah, and the good thing about Hawk Girl is that she wouldn't necessarily be confined to Earth.
Truth.
So she could have adventures on Earth. She could also be in space.
In Thanagar.
Yeah, imagine an episode where she's teamed up with Lobo, for instance.
Oh!
That'd be a good team.
Oh, Lobo have his own show. Didn't he have his own show?
He had well, you kind of spoiled my answer.
Oh. What is your answer?
Yeah, my answer was going to be Lobo. Because I really love Lobo. And he did actually have a webtoon series that was...
Oh, a webzine.
Yeah, well, not a webzine, it was a webtoon, like a web
cartoon. Yeah.
It was directed by Boyd Kirkland, I believe, who directed a lot of Batman episodes.
Yeah.
But it was really like crude animation, and because it was all stored on the web 20 years ago, the audio quality is really poor.
Was that Time Warner, or was that Cartoon Network?
I think it was...
Or am I completely wrong on both?
I think it would have been Warner Brothers. I think
okay.
Kids WB at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. But seeing as you kind of spoiled my answer there, I would also say a Gotham GCPD series.
Oh, you've said that before. I would love that.
Gotham Central was my favourite comic. It was like can't even say the word. A procedural police drama set in Gotham City. Batman occasionally shows up, but you never really see him clearly. It's all about the cops. So basically, it's like your Law and Order or NYPD Blue, but set in Gotham.
Okay, so thank you so much, Little Weird. Those were 2 amazing questions.
SimCity asks, if I could, I would like to make a question about Wally West's Flash in the DCAU, mainly his connections to the comics runs at the time he was on the TV screen. I'm not sure about how many years he was on TV, considering the variation of shows, but I personally always pondered if the comics at some point could be holding Barry's return because of Wally's popularity on TV. Okay, so your question there, basically, is did they hold off on bringing Barry Allen back because of the popularity of Wally on the show? I would say no. I think at the time, Barry Allen's death was considered very considerable and like one of these moments that was etched in stone, like the death of the Waynes and Uncle Ben in Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Because he sacrificed himself to save the universe, and then that led to Kid Flash graduating to becoming the Flash.
Dank Mayo gets no girls.
Okay. Don't disagree.
How do you guys think Flash would fare against some speedsters in the MCU?
I know the answer to this. Because
Okay.
I've read the DC versus Marvel crossover from the 90s, and I'm pretty sure the Flash beat Quicksilver, because they basically had characters paired up and fight off against each other, and people had to send in votes on who would win. So it was Wolverine versus Lobo, Batman versus Captain America, the Hulk versus Spider-Man. Sorry, not Spider-Man, the Incredible Hulk. Spider-Man versus... Who did Spider-Man fight? I think it was Superboy.
Superboy.
But if I remember rightly, the Flash won the vote, so the Flash beat Quicksilver. I can't think of many other Marvel speedsters.
Because he's the fastest.
Well, yeah, I can't think of many other Marvel speedsters off the top of my head. But I think the Flash would run circles around them.
Obviously. At Captain Al has 3 questions. Do you think the Flash got enough attention? He's obviously lovable. Agreed. But was he sandbagged too much? Plot developmental wise. Okay, so if we're talking about the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, if we're just talking about those, this is about a league of people. So there's at first there's Hawkgirl, Superman, Batman, Flash, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, Wonder Woman. How can I forget my favorite? One of my favorites. They're all my favorites, but you've got these 6-7 people, and you need to put a little bit. You need to sprinkle a little bit of each of their personalities in each episode. So you could say that about all of the characters, but I don't think they did less. I don't think they sandbagged Flash. I really don't, because I think you got enough of his personality and enough of his wonder, if you will, that you knew who he was.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know where you're coming from, though, because he was kind of derpy. It's the best word I can think
How
of to
dare
describe
you.
him. And also, he didn't actually have that many episodes where he was the star front and centre. He was more often than not a background character. But I still think they handled him very well. He was very likeable. Mm-hmm. He's very memorable.
Yeah.
One of the better characters in Justice League.
Saved the day many times. So, second question, how do you feel about the version we got in Superman, the animated series?
So, it's interesting you bring that up, because there is debate as to whether that is the same person or not. Is that Wally West, or is that possibly Barry Allen? Because he's got a different costume. He's got a black trim around his chest emblem. I think because his personality is so similar, and okay, it's a different voice actor, I think it probably is Wally. Mm-hmm. He's a bit more arrogant and standoffish and kind of irritating. But I still think it was, a good interpretation of the Flash.
In my mind, I think it's the Flash from the Superman animated series. I think it's the same one. And I just think it's, the Flash just starting out. Mm-hmm. Whereas the Flash that we're seeing is more, tiny bit more grown up. Not too much, but has kind of gone into his role a little bit more and is more confident in his role. But I could be wrong. I'm not completely sure.
The only thing that makes me question if he is Wally or not
Is the outline.
Well, no, it's not. I mean, that is one thing, but that's you wear different clothes. I don't wear the same clothes every day, right? I swear. The thing that makes me question it is in the Flash Museum there is a Kid Flash outfit, the yellow one with the top of the mask missing so his hair could stand out. So why would Wally be Kid Flash if there wasn't a Flash already around? So going to the comics, Barry Allen died during Crisis on Infinite Earths, which resulted in the continuity being reset. So I kind of like the idea that Barry Allen did exist as the Flash, and then there was a big continuity reset, and that's how we got the DCAU, and nobody remembers him. I like that idea.
Oh, that's nice. Third, there is no third question. Just a thanks for making quality content. Yes, thank you, Luke, for making good content, and thank you for letting me be a part of your good content.
No, thank you. I appreciate comments like that. Thank you for your feedback and your nice remark. It's very helpful. On days where I'll be sitting here thinking, why do I bother doing this? Anyway.
So Zenmox says, what is your favorite Flash moment from the DCAU?
Do you want to go first? Or
you can go first because I've got one.
Okay, so it's my favourite moment out of all of them is from the brain robbery episode where Lex Luthor has taken over the Flash's body and he's in the bathroom and he's in the watchtower and he's like, well, I guess now I can unmask and know who the Flash is. And he takes his mask off, stares at himself in the mirror for a moment and goes, I have no idea who this is. I love that.
So I've got two.
Okay.
One of them's just kind of funny. One of them is when he first sees Wonder Woman.
Oh, yes.
Because that is just the epitome of Flash. The epitome of Flash. And the second one is from the Christmas episode we watched last night. That's always been one of my favorite.
Comfort and Joy.
Yeah, from Comfort and Joy, because it shows that Flash is a superhero, not for the vanity part of it, but because he actually wants to help people. And a lot of the time it's kids.
Yeah.
And even if they ask for a ducky, the Flash is going to try his best to get that ducky.
Yeah, I mean, he ran all the way to Japan to get the last one for them.
Of course.
I mean, that's not a huge feat considering he can circle the globe in a few seconds, but still.
Yeah.
He spends his Christmas Eve trying to bring some joy to some orphan children. And he even kind of brings some joy to the Ultra Humanite as well.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about the Flash is he's not selfish with his kindness. And I really thoroughly enjoy that, whether it's an orphan kid or one of his villains. He's just as nice.
Or a 7-foot, 5-ton gorilla.
Yeah, because he gave him that tree, and it sparks some joy into the Ultra Humanite. Okay.
So with Alex's questions here, he's asked 10 questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to give one-word answers really, or one-sentence answers, just so that we don't spend all day talking about this. So Mary, go with the question.
Is there any... Okay, so this is from Alex Lemons. Number 1, is there any actor in particular you'd like to voice Batman in Caped Crusader, and why?
No, I don't really care. It's not going to be Kevin Conroy, so it can be anyone else. It doesn't matter to me.
I wouldn't mind Matt Boomer doing it.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't know who Matt Boomer is, he is in American Horror Story, and he's in Doom Patrol.
Yeah, it's the negative man in Doom Patrol.
That's right. I think he would make a good Bruce / Batman.
Yeah, I know John Hamm from Mad Men. He's wanted to be Batman for a long time.
Oh yeah, John. That I could see that.
Yeah.
Definitely. Number 2, if given the opportunity to travel back in time and write an episode of BTAS, what would it be about? I think I already answered this question when I talked about the Harvey Bullock thing.
Procedural crime drama episode with Bullock and Montoya.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I would. I mean, aside from what I mentioned earlier about the Riddler deciding he's going to solve all the crime in Gotham to prove that he's better than Batman, I would write an episode about a supervillain trauma support group. And I would have people like that were one-off characters in earlier episodes, like Daniel Mockridge from If You're So Smart, Why Aren't You Rich? Teddy from Feet of Clay, maybe even Stella from Mudslide. Have them all together, just like dealing with their trauma after being exposed. Alice from the Mad Hatter episode, Mad as a Hatter. All those people coming together and talking about their traumas and how they overcome them. I don't think it would be an action-packed episode, but I think it would be really great for like continuity fans.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be a one-sentence answer, and I talked for like 2 minutes. I'm sorry.
Number 3, have you considered reviewing the HBO Spawn cartoon as well as the characters' comic book crossovers with Batman? It's cool that you say that because I watched Spawn when I was a kid. I probably shouldn't have because of the mature content, but I really liked it. We can talk about Spawn at some point. I don't mind.
Yeah.
In terms of the crossovers with Batman, like I said at the beginning of this episode, I'm not that familiar with the comic book crossovers, but I could familiarize myself, and we could talk about it. Number 4, do you have a favorite live action Joker performance? Can I answer this one first?
Yes.
No.
I do.
What is yours?
Jack Nicholson.
Oh, shoot! No, mine is Jack Nicholson. But that's so different because I think of Jack Nicholson as Jack Nicholson's the Joker.
Yeah.
Whereas I think of Joaquin Phoenix, although I loved that performance, as the Joker. Whereas, Jack Nicholson is such a character on his own that I never really think of him as the Joker. He's just Jack Nicholson to me. Mm-hmm. Does that make...
Yeah, it does. Jack Nicholson used to play just Jack Nicholson in all these different roles. But I don't care, he was great. Yeah.
Okay, I changed my answer to Jack Nicholson.
The only one I don't like is Jared Leto.
Who?
Yeah. Anyway.
I joke. Where were we? Number 5?
Yeah, number 5. 5 of 10. Whew.
How would you conceptualize an episode of BTAS wherein we learned of Poison Ivy's origin?
Personally, I wouldn't.
Yeah. Because it's not the Poison Ivy show.
Not because of that, it's just because it's not really something I think about. I'm not really that interested in Poison Ivy.
If you do just a Poison Ivy show in the way that BTAS was done, I'll watch it.
Yeah, of course I'd watch it, yeah, but it's not really something that consumes my thoughts,
Yeah. Number 4. Nope, we already did number 4.
Yeah, we're on number 6.
Number 6. How about covering the Batman Beyond Rogues Gallery? Well, of course we're going to do that.
Yeah, and I'll do it in my videos as well. It's not just BTAS, but it's primarily BTAS.
Yeah. So with me, I am more of... I love BTAS. Obviously, that's one of my favorite things ever. But in terms of talking about and relating more to things, Justice League and Batman Beyond are probably the ones I can relate to and talk more about than BTAS. So we will end up talking about them. Ace. Oh, Ace. Number 7. Have the pod people gotten to you yet?
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I assume he's talking about Poison Ivy's pod people.
Oh, I don't know yet. Oh, pod people. I thought they were talking about, podcast people.
Well, he might be. I'm just making the assumption there.
No, they haven't gotten to me yet. There's still time. Number 8. As a British person, can you offer me your opinion on Paddington? I'm not British, and I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Paddington film. I gather it's very good.
But Hideo Kojima says that Paddington 2 was one of the best things he had ever seen, and it made him cry.
Mm-hmm. And there was that scene in The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent where Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal are weeping watching it, going, "This is the best film ever." Which,
yeah,
okay, maybe it is, but I don't care.
It's not my sort of thing. It's not really. Number 9. How would you write a Batman/Doctor Who crossover miniseries, and which Doctor would you choose?
I wouldn't write it, but if I had to, then I would choose Sylvester McCoy, because that's the Doctor Who I knew growing up. And Sylvester McCoy was very nice to us at Comic-Con.
Obviously, he was amazing. You spent all your money on him. So, this is probably more geared toward Luke, but if I had to pick Batman, I would pick...
Doctor Who, not
Doctor Who. I would obviously pick the Doctor that I know, which is... what's his face?
David Tennant?
Yeah, I know him so well. If I were to pick a Doctor Who, it would be David Tennant.
Not Matt Smith?
No.
Okay.
Not that he was bad, it's just I didn't finish his series. Number 10. Is it true that St. George is still alive and secretly controls the UK from his underground bunker?
No.
We're not allowed to talk about that, actually. Thank you so much, excellent one. No, thank you so much. I really appreciate all your questions. Oh, Kendrick Bautista asks, is it just me, or does the man in the green look so much like Ra's al Ghul?
So he's talking about the image I chose for the poll, or the call for questions for the podcast.
For sure, yeah.
It's the record producer from the first episode of Livewire, and I don't think he looks like Ra's al Ghul. He's just got a green coat on, and he's an old man that's bald on top.
Does that not look like Ra's al Ghul?
No, because Ra's al Ghul has a head of hair. I know he's got a what do they call it? A widow's peak.
Yeah.
He has a full head of hair.
Yeah. Okay. Scrin asks, if animated Flash is Wally West, what happened to Barry Allen? Was Wally ever Kid Flash, while the Flash himself was Barry? If so, are there any cartoons within the same continuity that depict this? If there is no Barry, why did the writers do this?
Yeah, so we kind of touched upon this in earlier answers, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
But basically, when they brought the Flash in, they didn't want to label him as either Wally or Barry.
Yeah.
And when push came to shove, they had to make a decision, and they just went, all right, fine, it's Wally. Probably because Barry was dead in the comics at that time. Mm-hmm. And it's just so much simpler to not bring in Barry Allen as the original Flash and then have Wally be Kid Flash, who then graduates to the not real Flash, but you know what I mean, to the full Flash. And so they never really talked about it. But as I mentioned earlier, in one of the episodes with the Flash Museum, you do see the Kid Flash costume and Jay Garrick's Flash helmet in the Flash Museum. Which indicates possibly that Jay Garrick existed as the Flash and Barry Allen did. But I would say they didn't. That's my take on it, but I'm not an expert.
So Kyra Universal says, please mention my comments on the Mad Hatter episodes.
I've loaded up Kyra Universal's comment in that they're talking about the Mad Hatter mentions of self-harm is blah 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 is in Mad Hatter blah blah blah, blah excuse me. It's because of a huge fear that Bruce has, which isn't really discussed in all varieties: abandonment. A lot of stories of unrequited love are focused around the fear of rejection, but a lot don't know that when someone like the Hatter, who never had another human being in his life care about him, can get rejected, it blurs the lines of rejection and abandonment. He feels like he's been abandoned by the one human being who cared about him, and not just for his work. For certain people, this leads to a lot of self-harming thoughts and even actions. They think they'll be abandoned again anyway, so in their mind, why try? I've been through an experience slightly similar to it, and I'm glad I actually had friends and family to lead on. And I said, thank you for sharing the observation. You're welcome. I will say that in some of my more serious work on this channel, I actually plan on discussing this topic. I'm not really sure what else to add to what you said there. I think it's perfectly valid, and, you know, I mentioned this earlier it's perfectly natural to have negative reactions to tough situations. The most important thing, however, is that you don't dwell on that initial negative reaction. It's fine to have it, you need to work through it and find a way to get past it. Be that by removing yourself from certain social circles, or even, moving to a new place, taking a new job, that kind of thing.
Switching countries.
Yeah, switching countries. Mary here knows a little thing or two about that.
Yeah. Sometimes we, just like Luke said, sometimes we have to help ourselves by getting out of those situations. And sometimes it's really easy to do, but most of the time, getting yourself out of certain situations isn't easy. And you have to be, thoughtful about it. But if something is negative in your life, it's not always easy to fix. But trust me, you can.
Yeah.
With, the help of other people as well.
Yeah, and I would say that most times, no matter how bad the situation, it's probably not as bad as you think it is. It's probably not. And you might feel like there's no way out of it, but there usually is.
And if you are one of those people that think that, you can DM me. We can talk about it. Somebody always needs somebody.
Yeah.
And if you need to talk, I'm here. And so is Gilgamesh has left.
I know. I think it got a little too heavy for him.
He was like, nah. So, Speed Jolt 95. I have a question. Awesome. Who is Riddler's mother, and what happened to her before or after he was born?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because I think what you're alluding to is the One Bad Day Riddler comic that came out last year, which was Tom King, a prolific Batman writer, we'll put it that way. He's not always like the most well-received writer, but anyway, he wrote a Riddler special where he divulged like the Riddler's childhood, where he had a very abusive, controlling father, and his mother was a sex worker, and he never knew her. And an unpleasant thing happened with his men visiting her, and she would say, "Oh, my son's your boss," etc., etc. And when he found out, he murdered her. Not very pleasant at all. But in terms of the DC animated universe, they never go into Edward Nygma's childhood. Never touch on it. He was just a normal, very intelligent person working at a games company, and he got screwed out of royalties for the title he worked on, and that's what motivated his revenge. I assume, given the fact that when he sought his revenge, it was several years later, I would assume that he had attempted to sue to get royalties and was kind of screwed out of it. Mm-hmm. So that's why he resorted to costumed criminality to get revenge. But they never ever mention his parents or anything like that. So I don't view Tom King's Riddler backstory as being relevant to the DC animated universe.
So my quick answer is, I don't know.
Who is the Riddler's mother? Mrs. Nygma.
Who is the Riddler's mother? The DNA tests are in. It's not me. So Siren Richardson TV asks, what inspired the second Clock King episode?
I'd love to know the answer to that question, because it was very left field, wasn't it? The Clock King in his first episode was a meticulous planner. He had everything worked out down to the last second, and in his second appearance, he had the ability to slow time. I imagine they wanted to use the Clock King again, but felt like he needed a gimmick change. And I mean, I don't love Time Out of Joint. It's not one of my favourite episodes. But I'm glad they tried to do something different, I suppose. In terms of what inspired it, I'd have to ask the writer, and I can't remember who wrote it off the top of my head. They might not even be alive anymore, actually, because some of the writers have passed away recently.
So I think that's all of the questions.
That's all of the questions. Good God, that was a lot.
I know we've been a bit rambly, but that's just expected. Mm-hmm. So, how would you like to end this?
So, well, first of all, you need to thank people for listening.
Well, I need to sip my Stanley Cup first.
Have a sip, and I'll... So thank you for listening if you made it this far. I'm going to put chapters in the YouTube upload so that it will say, you know, this is our Flash discussion, this is the comments, this is the questions.
Me crying over Michael Rosenbaum.
Yeah. I think really what's left to say is what we're going to talk about next time. I'll tell you what, next episode, let's talk about the last episode of Season 1 of Justice League Unlimited, Epilogue.
Epilogue.
But yeah, if you've got any comments, questions, leave them in the comments on this podcast episode and we'll answer them. We'll do our best to answer them next time.
Yeah, so have a really great day.
If you're not having a great day, don't watch any of the depressing episodes of Batman. Maybe watch some Superman instead.
I love Superman.